Good afternoon. We're coming to you from Vernon, British Columbia, October the 8th, 2022. Pretty nice day. It's more like September than October. I was going to talk a little bit about, well, the white race. Where did it come from? And why are they situated in basically Europe and North America and Australia? South Africa was, well, not white, but it was a lot of white race there, along with a majority of black race, really. But it's sort of interesting because uh, there's some books in history on, according to the Bible, there was 12 tribes, or Jacob, who was the son of Isaac, who was the son of Abraham.
What do you want to turn off?
And
Looks
Jacob,
like you've been cut, or I missed the context. You can try asking the whole question again.
Alexa, stop. She butts in. Anyway, Jacob, who was the son of Isaac, had 12 sons. And it's what's sort of interesting that Abraham's first son, Ishmael, which God said, no, that's not the son that is going to carry on for you. But he said he will have 12 princes. That's basically the Arabic nations. Now, the 12 tribes of Israel, that's a historical thing. And it's pretty hard to ignore that. I mean, it's evidence of it all through history and written evidence and archaeology, logical evidence, and biblical evidence. So it's a matter of what you believe. And you can be led to believe just about anything. But I believe that that is a true depiction of what has happened and how those tribes got to go together and how they rebelled and how God treated them and how it's all panned out in the last thousands and thousands of years. Now, the reason I say that the 12 tribes of Israel were most likely the white race, or became the white race or something, is they are directly descended from Adam. They are not from the sixth day creation, which God created the male and female. The direct descendants of Adam is that God created Adam. And then he created Eve. Now, when you see things, identity things or whatever else, some places it'll say that, are you a Caucasian? I used to think, wow, what's that? But then I finally realized and found out and read that the 10 tribes of Israel actually migrated from Israel into Syria, and they multiplied and carried on and kept moving and moving and moving, basically west. And they went through I guess, areas of Russia or China or Asia and through what's called the Caucasian Mountains range. And I guess that's why we are called Caucasians. And they traveled through there, and then they dispersed, and what they claim it was, as the time went on, that they were God had said that they would not receive their promise that He had promised them, and it worked out to something like 2,500 and some years, 2,500 and a few years. I don't know how much, 2,520 or something, I think it was. And anyway, they moved and developed and grew as they moved into Europe and Scandinavia, and finally into Ireland and Scotland and England. And as the time went on, they multiplied. And when the time that God had declared that they were going to have to wait for their promise that He had promised Abraham that they would receive, came, and when that happened, exactly when the time was up, not about, but exactly, they just like they woke up or something, and all of a sudden they are in the Iron Age, and they're doing this, and they're inventing this, and they're building this, and next thing you know, they're building ships, and then better ships and more ships, and they get into steam engines and railroads, big ships and armies and whatever. And then all of a sudden, I don't know what, about I think it was like the end of the 16th century, beginning of the 17th century or something, they decided to spread out because they were getting too crowded, especially in England and Ireland and Germany and Europe. The interesting thing about Germany is that in the United States alone, something like 4,000 Germans immigrated to the USA. But the interesting part about it was the ones that immigrated all had basically Nordic skulls. That's an elongated face, more or less. And all the round-faced Germans stayed. And they're basically of Assyrian descent, more Assyrian. And the ones who left are the ones who actually immigrated into Germany years and years before and became Germans. And they forgot where they came from, who they are. But they're the ones that immigrated to North America. And the English immigrated, the Irish, Scottish, Scandinavian, German, French, and Dutch, Danish. They immigrated to North America. And this was all foretold, and they began to get their inheritance that God promised them. And, people say Israel is Jewish. There's mainly Jews in Israel, but not all Israelites are Jewish. Only 1/12 of the Israelites are Jewish. Small amount. But the thing is, God promised wealth to uh, Ephraim and Manasseh, but he promised like a company of nations to Ephraim. And Ephraim was the ones who lived in or were in England. The tribe of Manasseh is the ones who left and went to North America, more or less. And they were to be a great nation. And Ephraim and Jacob's people were, well, they're all Jacob's people, but were supposed to be a company of nations, which England was. England was a commonwealth, is still a commonwealth, not as big as it was. So this stuff happening it just happens like clockwork. I mean, it really does. Nobody can look at it in their lifetime because their lifetime is too short. But over a period of time in history, and people can read it and study it, they can see that God has a plan. And the thing is, it also says that they're going to lose it. And they're going to lose it because they break God's laws. And the thing about God's laws is that God's laws are supreme. I mean, that's hard to kind of wrap your head around, but God's laws are so supreme that anybody who breaks his law is, the penalty is death. And God knew that. He knew that when he created them. But he had to create them with free will and whatever to be his legitimate sons. That's another thing. That's another thing that feminists and whatever don't really like to hear. That God desires sons. I believe that. There is no marriage or no nothing in the world to come, in God's kingdom. And that is why before the world began, Jesus Christ was determined to be the offering to pay for the sins of his creation, because his law is supreme. His law is absolute, cannot be changed. Man can't make laws. Only God can make laws. And when people, not all people, but when people believe that Jesus Christ actually came to pay the price for God's law, because God does not change. He says, I never change. And that's the thing about it is he doesn't change, and he's existed forever. So why should he change? He's perfect. Everything he does is, he has, when they say if it's according to your will, well, that's a pretty big thing. He has a lot of according to his will. But there are things that are not according to his will. It won't be allowed. The whole business of Jews and the hatred of Jews, it seems like it's been going on for thousands of years. And, that is quite the thing. It's Jews have such a knack to make money and are crafty. They make the desert bloom, basically. And when they had the 6-Day War in 1967, I think it was. Yes, how they defeated everybody, and everybody had way more army and men and material than they did, but they defeated them. And yet, the Jewish religion does not believe in Jesus Christ. And Jesus Christ was one of them. He was born there. But they rejected him flat out, still do to this day. So there's going to be a lot more suffering for the Jews. But being they are part of God's people, all the other 10 tribes are too. It's Judah and Benjamin that are basically the Jewish nations. The it really is a head shaker, because all this everything is going to happen according to God's plan. Just everything, right down to the last detail. I don't believe, just my opinion, I don't know where, well, I couldn't prove it at all, but I don't think there'll ever be an atomic war. I think, if anything, they will try to outlaw them, because they're fearful of destroying the whole planet. Russia right now is threatening to use it. I don't think that they will, because they know it would not go well for them if they did. And so I think they'll either remove Putin from leadership, or to just back off. He's got himself in a corner now where he's, doesn't want to lose the war, but he's been driven practically out of there again. But United States is going to basically disintegrate down to and going to be taken over. Maybe not in our lifetime, maybe, but it's going to happen, because it says it's going to happen. And why is it going to happen? Well, who spreads all the lousy anti-God, anti-Christ paraphernalia around the world? Hollywood, American, and homosexuality, and feminism, and now they're into all this other stuff, LBGTQP, LDB, I don't know. It's just ridiculous. It's not that it's going to change. It's going to get worse. God said it's going to get worse. Not going to get better. It'll get worse. But not all at once. It'll take time. Just kind of grow worse. And here I'm going to change the subject just for a second. I'm looking at my picture here in this video, and I'm thinking, if I could only get a market for wrinkles, I could be rich. Man, I got wrinkles. But anyway, to me it's very interesting that God has all this planned out. And when I say planned out, I mean planned out. I mean, I actually believe that everything that happens is planned. It's in His plan. And because He says, I know the beginning from the end. I know the end from the beginning. I am Alpha and Omega. I know it all. So, if that's the case, there are some places it claims that you're predestined. God has predestined you from before you were born. He chose you because He knew who you were going to be and what they were going to. And I guess there's those He doesn't choose. Well, there's something to be said about God. when you consider how powerful he is. But that doesn't mean that being powerful is the end all of everything, because he desires sons to have a family, basically to have a family. And he wants a huge family. Can you imagine how huge a family he wants? He wants a city. Now, I don't know. He claims that they live without the city, without of the city and in the city. And the amount of sons is most likely in the millions or billions or something. But these sons who people are resurrected, from what I understand now is just not what I think, it's what I understand. Because I don't know a blinking thing about this. But what I understand is that the sons are going to look like basically young males. Because there is no marriage in heaven. So therefore, the womb is not required anymore. If the womb is not required, then the woman is not required. The woman was created for Adam. And I mean, it's a pretty harsh thing for women to swallow. But the thing is, you might be born a woman on earth, and live and die a woman on earth, and you eventually end up in heaven as a son of God. Nothing wrong with that. And you may have a job to do, or you may have whatever. But, I think that God gives people a spirit the minute they're created. As soon as the sperm hits the egg, it creates a cell. That's the beginning of a life. And that at that time, I believe God institutes spirit into that egg, and that has the somehow or another has the instructions or the for life. And there has to be something there, because each cell is told how to reproduce and how to do everything to create a human being. It doesn't just grow like a mud pie. No, it has instructions. Every single cell, and this cell goes here, this cell goes there, and the woman is the carrier. That is her role in this world. And I mean, women most likely, generally these days, don't like that. But in the olden days, that was an honor for them. And I do believe God does honor women, gives honor to women as mothers, because is their ultimate role on this planet, is to create life. They don't create life. Life is created when the male sperm hits the egg. So the life obviously is in the sperm, the spark of life. And say what you want, that is the job of the female. She has an egg, and thousands of eggs for her lifetime. They are all lined up, and she carries them. And one drops every 28 days. Nothing to do with her wants or not wants. That's what happens. That she's genetically built to do that. Now, you know, when you get right down to it, it's a tricky deal because men carry the sperm. Women generally are made a lot more attractive and beautiful than men. In fact, that's a fact. And I guess the reason for that is to attract men who carry the sperm to be to want to procreate. And it's you know it's a I look at men really have nothing to do with it. It's just that's there and they got to do it. There's no deep thought put into it or anything, and that is how procreation is managed. And you know, God said to be fruitful and multiply, not divide. And that is one of the reasons I believe that God is so abhorred by gay men actions and beliefs. And they're taken over by it. They have a satanic spirit in them to do that. They have to have, they don't have a godly spirit at all. But when they desecrate his image, because everyone is created in God's image, and I think that's basically why he abhors it and hates it so much. And it gets so bad if you read I don't know what is it in, oh, I don't know, Exodus or whatever, about Sodom and Gomorrah, or is it Genesis? Yes, Genesis. He tells Abraham that he's going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah because he said he came down to see firsthand how bad they were. And then Abraham tries to negotiate that he wouldn't destroy them if there was 40 good men there, 10, until he got down to 10. And God said, yes, if there's 10 good men there, I will not destroy it. But when Abraham looked out in the morning, he saw the smoke rising, and he realized that they were really destroyed by fire and brimstone coming down out of the sky. Just fire and brimstone smashing and sticking onto buildings and burning. And they claim they can find the location and they can find the brimstone and the remnants of it all, even to this day, and that's most likely 4,000 years ago. Or more, I don't know. But God has made it so that his great kingdom will come to this earth, regardless of what people do. They're going to do exactly what his plan calls for. And it is the buildup of all the things that the human race has done against his laws, against his kingdom. And the wrath has been built up, that he stores up the wrath and waits and waits and waits. But when it comes, it is going to be, horrendous. And whoever is alive at that time will pay a terrible price. Terrible price to be, if you're still alive at that time. If you're still alive at that time and you believe and you trust in Jesus Christ and God, you may have some protection. I'm not sure, but I think he does say some places that, but he does say if you lose your life for my case, you gain it. And if you take the mark of the beast, you've lost it. In other words, that's 666. And nobody's really too sure what that will be. But I'm sure when it happens, you will know. Because you'll be forced to take it. It won't be voluntary, it'll be forced. In my case, I guess I would starve to death because I wouldn't take it. which would happen. Ha! Nobody can say that this is not a pretty interesting time to be alive. Of all the history of the world, when you realize what you're watching is the end of you're watching the end of the movie. You're getting close to the end of the movie, and you're privileged actually to actually watch it if you understand what's going on, and you don't get into this business that mankind, we can change this and we can change that and we can save the planet, do all that. That's a lie by Satan, satanic lie. God is in charge. He will be in charge until he locks up Satan for 1,000 years. That's one day in God's calendar. And then he releases them again because there are people who have gone astray and still influenced by satanic and evil deals. And he gathers them together and gets rid of them then. The final clearinghouse. And then that is the end of this age. And Satan is thrown into a lake of fire and in hell, and never to come up to come in and be allowed to operate again, ever, forever. So I mean, the way things go, and when you hear the news and you listen to politicians and all the rest, you have to realize what I'm telling you is that this has never happened before. This is new. This is a new stage in the progression of the end of this age. The earth will remain, will be purged and be a new earth. Strange thing though, it says there will be no sea. So where's all the water going to go? I guess when it's burned in fire, it's going to evaporate and it's got to start somewhere else. So anyway, take your choice. Don't wait too long to make a decision on something, or it could be too late. You don't want that. For now, that's it. Have a good weekend. It's the Thanksgiving weekend.